my song. Let's sing it. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, sing. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah!
All right, everybody. Howdy, howdy, howdy. It is me, Jesse Blaze Snyder, the coolest geek alive. How are you doing out there? I'm doing great. I am, there's always life going on. Sometimes there's bad things, but, I woke up to some yucky news this morning. But everything is great, man. Most things are fucking awesome. Life is good. I feel good. I hope you're doing good. If you're not, if you're having struggles, if you woke up to a bad morning, Care Bear stare to you. I hope things are getting better. Anyway, I don't know if I'm going to spend too much time today talking about this all, but there's just a lot to talk about as far as Marvel Studios is concerned and everything that's been going on with them. I put together, just a little breakdown of a whole bunch of things that I want to talk about today regarding Marvel Studios and everything going on with them, which basically encapsulates Thunderbolts and, its success, if you can call it that, because I'm kind of arguing that, everything with Disney is always spin. They're just always spinning. Whatever happens, there's never anything wrong with what happens. There's always just what's right about what happens, even when there's nothing right about what happens. But Thunderbolts is a tricky one because there's plenty of things right about what's happening with Thunderbolts, but ultimately, I think they're really kind of blowing out of proportion how good or how successful Thunderbolts really is or has been. And meanwhile, the next thing to come out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a Disney Plus TV series, Ironheart, which has been held back for at least a year and change. I've got the dates and I'm going to go through this stuff. And then the early announcements and rumors and stuff about Avengers Endgame are insane. And if any of the rumors about the script process for Thunderbolts and some of the possibilities that were there for Thunderbolts, like fucking U.S. Agent being a bad guy of the script and Taskmaster having a much bigger role, and last minute they decide to shoot her and do that fan service thing. The amount of different plans and different ideas that they had, kind of seemingly up to the last minute for Thunderbolts, really demonstrate that Thunderbolts is good despite the best efforts of their terrible studio, who is not conceiving these things properly. Fucking Kevin Feige needs to be run out of town on a handcart and replaced by somebody who knows how to tell story, somebody who really loves this material and is capable of, of doing the good work. I said to Digger, there's it looks like there's, 6 different options of various things that they can do. Actually, I was specifically talking about Indiana Jones and what's called scrapbooking, where they film a ton of different endings, a ton of different alternative versions of the scene, and then they go test it with audiences. And he was like, you could do that. That's good. I'd do that. That's a good, if I could do that, I would do that. And it's okay that Digger would do that because Digger is brilliant. Digger's a genuine creative dynamo, and any 6 scripts that he picked, he'd be right. They would all work. He'd be like, that works, that works, that works. Let's see what the audience likes best. And that's okay when somebody who really cares about the source material is doing it and knows what they're doing. An artist who knows what they're doing can do that. But a fucking producer who's not a writer, who really doesn't fucking know what he's doing and has shown himself to be terrible when it comes to continuity and adapting source material and generally writing. So many of these freaking Marvel series, it's the end where they all fall apart. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was good until the last episode. Hawkeye was great until the last episode. So many of these shows just would fall apart in the last episode. And that last episode was where it was connecting to other things, where it was landing in its spot to be a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe forever in this specific way that things ended up. And the way things have ended up have demonstrated over and over again that the people at the tippy top of this pyramid don't fucking know what they're doing as far as storytelling is concerned. And as you know, that's what I care about. I care about loving adaptations of the source material. Art with soul. It comes from love. Great things come from love. All right? So let's get into it. Like I said, I went through earlier and I just kind of blocked this down into a bunch of bullet points. I'll just kind of read some of my notes, and then I'll talk about some of the things, and some of the things I'll talk about more than others. All right. So, let's start with Ironheart. Okay. So this thing was originally announced officially during Disney's Investor Day in December 2020. It was announced in December 2020, so we're 5 years later now. And the actress is Dominique Thorne, who was cast as Riri Williams. She, of course, was introduced in the Wakanda Forever movie, which I'm not a big fan of that Wakanda Forever movie. Again, a lot of bad choices there. I would have recast Chadwick Boseman, gotten myself a new Black Panther. They introduced the son of Black Panther. This is a problem. T'Challa is the character that we love, just like Steve Rogers is the character we love. Sam Wilson's Captain America is not afforded the same respect and a love and adoration that we give to the original Captain America. And it's not because of the suit, it's because the man in the suit. You know, Peter Parker is the one who has, with great power comes great responsibility. Miles Morales has a whole other story. And that's not to say that I don't like Miles, and I like Miles' story, but when you are stealing the sort of the costume, the archetype or whatever it might be of these people, you can't just put a body in the suit and expect it to be good. You know, Miles works because he's a good character in his own right. He's got some interesting bases, like his connection to Prowler and some other things that Brian Michael Bendis did for that character that are worthwhile and cool, and that gives him his own thing, even though him having to share the name Spider-Man with Spider-Man is a little bit of a problem in a lot of ways. Ironheart coming into that movie, being introduced into that movie as a black, brainy female in a movie that was forced to focus on black, brainy female Shuri, who I love, but it's like too many cooks in the kitchen, too many black, brainy females in the kitchen. And the characters are mostly, they're mostly the same. They really maybe Shuri's got a better attitude or something like that. So let's not introduce this character there. Also, additionally, Ironheart is one of the more recent additions to the Marvel comic book universe, and she was a character that the audience felt very much was being forced upon them, and she never connected with the audience. Never. None of her comics were successful. She was eventually added to teams like the Champions that Ms. Marvel was on. And I've talked about this before. The better, more successful young team of superheroes in the Marvel comic book universe was the Young Avengers. These stories were awesome. They were written by Alan Heinberg and drawn by Jim Chang. Excellent comics. There was 2 long-form miniseries. One was 12 issues, and the other one I think was like 8 or 9 issues. And they were both excellent. And Alan Heinberg, he wrote, he was a popular, writer in Hollywood. He was writing for a show called The O.C. And his comics were excellent. And the way the the way the Young Avengers were introduced in the comics was excellent. Eventually, America Chavez would be joined onto the team, but that was in later runs that were not as popular, that did not have the critical acclaim that Young Avengers had. Young Avengers was acclaimed. It was great. It really was. I love that stuff so much. I looked forward to it being adapted. When they started introducing some of these characters into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I was largely happy, although certain characters I wasn't really happy because a lot of the Young Avengers were introduced as a mystery. And this really kind of fucked up the way in which they were introduced, where it was all mysterious. So having so many of these characters introduced before their time, like Miss Marvel and Ironheart, it's a problem because it screws up all the continuity. Characters who were not meant to be seen alongside each other in their introduction, characters who were not meant to be on a team together because there's no basis for us wanting to see those characters together. When you see a movie like The X-Men and Nightcrawler shows up in the movie and you're like, Nightcrawler and Wolverine are going to interact, you're like, fuck yes! You know how many comics I've read with Nightcrawler and Wolverine interacting? So many. I've been longing to see them on the screen together, right? Like is the case with this Thunderbolts movie, none of these characters go together. None of this is peanut butter and jelly. U.S. Agent and fucking Winter Soldier, they've not done any meaningful comic book appearances together. I mean, maybe in the more recent years, as they've tried to rush out things that would validate this silly Thunderbolts movie that they've done, but these characters are not in cahoots in any meaningful way. So showing them all on a poster, Thunderbolts, it means nothing to the audience who reads comics. Nothing. We look at that and we go, why? And why call it Thunderbolts? The Thunderbolts were the masters of evil in disguise. Apparently, there was talk about maybe revealing that Baron Zemo was behind the creation of the Thunderbolts in the movie at the very end of the movie. But they didn't do that, and that would have been stupid too, because this movie has nothing to do with the Thunderbolts that Baron Zemo created in the comics. Baron Zemo was the leader of the Masters of Evil, and he had this great idea after a storyline called Heroes Reborn, where all of the main biggest superheroes in the Marvel Universe had disappeared, that he was going to replace them with this new team, the Thunderbolts, Justice Like Lightning. And they were all these evil bad guys in disguise. But over time, a lot of these evil bad guys basically changed heart. And and ended up sort of rousting Zemo in one way or another. So this was like a fun concept. I've enjoyed Thunderbolts. I've read a lot of different concepts about Thunderbolts at the time. Thunderbolts was essentially the Suicide Squad of the Marvel Universe to a certain degree, with a lot of villains who were trying to redeem themselves. And I like that concept a lot. Some of the comics were better than others, but I read a lot of them because I liked the concept. And that concept, it was strong. This isn't that concept exactly. There are some bad guys, but like really the way everybody was presented, even the bad guys within the context of the thing, they were never, like that Ghost, who isn't the Ghost from the comics. She's a gender swap version of the Ghost who has her own backstory, which basically exonerates her from being any sort of real villain. Taskmaster is maybe the most villainous, but even her has a backstory that kind of makes you feel bad for her and whatever else, and she gets killed in the first freaking scene. U.S. Agent isn't a bad guy. Black Widow #2 isn't really a bad guy. She's like a secret agent, assassin, whatever. Red Guardian is the Captain America of Russia. Sentry is a truly good guy who is corrupted with this power that is really dark within him that he's fighting, but he is a good guy. So Thunderbolts as a concept, which is redeeming villains, like that's not done. That's not being done here. And simply by them using the title Thunderbolts, they've basically made it so that they can never make a Thunderbolts movie. Or they're going to have to wait so long as that all of this information falls out of people's heads and they don't remember that this movie ever happened. And on any level, if it is successful, as we'll talk about how successful it really is in a little bit, the more successful it is, sort of like the more we're never actually going to see the Thunderbolts. It's such a weird concept. And of course, now they've got Bucky Barnes' character going around covering up the Thunderbolts poster with a new poster that says New Avengers. And while this is, I guess, clever on some level because it's like interesting or different, I don't know how great it is for like brand recognition. I don't know how great it is for like suggesting that you have confidence in the Thunderbolts concept. And it's like, why didn't you just promote it as New Avengers? Probably because they didn't want to hurt the New Avengers thing. But then when people seem to like it, they're like, okay, it's New Avengers. I don't know. I don't know what it means. It's really a weird choice. So they announced Riri Williams. And again, when they announced Riri Williams coming up with Wakanda Forever, I was like, her being in the movie with Shuri, which is like sort of a redundancy because Shuri and her are similar in a lot of ways. Especially once Shuri is the female Black Panther, because now she's not the person making the tech for Black Panther. She's the Black Panther. So she's in a Iron Man-esque type, granted it's not Iron Man-like, but it's a technologically based suit of armor that she's designed. So very similar. So the initial release plan was for late 2023. And now we're halfway through 2025 when this thing is going to come out. Marvel had blamed it on the labor strikes and strategic content reevaluation. But the labor strikes fucking excuse is bullshit because it was made. It's been fully made and finished, and it's been sitting on the shelf. It's been shelved by Marvel for almost 2 years. It's been done. And it was done when it was supposed to release, and they didn't release it. It wasn't like, oh, well, we haven't finished that yet. No, it was already done. It was in the can months before it was supposed to come out. But because of, and this part's true, the strategic content reevaluation, it was delayed. However, if they were really doing a strategic content reevaluation, they would have tax wrote off this movie and moved on with their lives, like David Zaslav did at Warner Brothers. That would have been a good move for them, because this project is going to just continue the malaise and the constant stream of failures, people not showing up to watch stuff, whether it's good or not. The Ironheart character is not beloved, but they did try to put out, again, some PR spin of the director and people who were working on this thing basically trying to talk to the possible TV viewing audience, telling them in like sort of talking about it like it's assumed that this is a character that is beloved and that people are waiting to see this. For those of you who are watching TV and watching the Marvel films and don't know anything about the comics, you don't know what the truth is. So this is spin. They're able to spin it for you because you're a slightly more ignorant member of the audience who just doesn't actually know the detail and the history of how successful a Miss Marvel has been in the comics or how successful a Ironheart has been in the comics. And the answer is not successful at all. They have launched and relaunched her book. In fact, Brian Michael Bendis, who is a brilliant writer, I'm such a fan of so many of his things, but he really had a fall in his popularity in the comic books, and his style got a little annoying. It's just, some writers just, at a certain point, they lose the plot, they lose full perspective on themselves and what they're doing. And it was around this time when Brian was really seeming to lose a lot of perspective on what he was doing that Riri Williams' Ironheart was introduced, and he was writing it, and that should be a recipe for a hit, and it wasn't. And what that means too is lots of people read these first issues, these early issues, lots of people, and they didn't like it. The book was canceled and relaunched and canceled and relaunched, which is a tactic that they try to use to, get more readers, but it tends to be only good for the first issue and very much drops off more and more and more predominantly after that. I don't have numbers for, what kind of sales the book had at the time, but I can tell you it was really bottom of the barrel, bad stuff, and with a major creator attached to it. This is the stuff that ultimately led Brian Michael Bendis to leaving Marvel and heading over to DC because, he was not getting the love that he had been getting on many previous projects. So Ironheart is not a good bit. It's currently set to release on Disney Plus June 24th, 2025, this year, with a 3-episode launch, followed by weekly releases, concluding the 6-episode season. And I believe it was supposed to be a lot more episodes than that, and that they cut it down to 6 to, basically be the best of it, and probably to obfuscate insults to the audience, things that would be blatant sort of story and archetype things that were the fingerprints of DEI. I've talked about this before. Diversity, equity, inclusion is awesome. It just has to be executed well. And unfortunately, when you hire less than great writers and have less than great producers handling these things, the directives like DEI become sore thumbs that are really obvious to note that, they did that for this reason. They did that for this reason. They did that for this reason. And when the pattern is so easy to see, the audience rejects it. And first, it's the really critical people, really hyper pattern recognition people. They're just like, I see this pattern. This is lame. This is fucking paint by numbers. This isn't organic. I don't like this. And then slowly but surely, though, everybody will notice if you keep doing the same thing. And they kept doing the same thing. Largely, that has been cut from Thunderbolts. There's not that much of it in there. However, it is in there because Ghost is a gender-swapped, non-white version of a white male bad guy. So was Taskmaster. She wasn't racially diverse. She was like a white woman with scars on her face or whatever, who was literally played by a male stunt actor for the entire movie. And then she takes off her helmet and she's like, I am a girl with boobies. No, you're not. You were a dude. And then the reveal, like, so it's like, what a cheap reveal. So many different things about it. It was very aggravating because I think it's Tony Masterson or whatever his name is, who's the character in the comics. Oh, I might not be getting his name exactly right, but I really like that character. There's cool things behind him. There's been some great stories that he's shown up in that have been really cool. His powers of being able to sort of copy the fighting styles of the other superheroes in the world is interesting, and it's been used very effectively by great writers over the years. In the Avengers, in Deadpool, I mean, he shows up all over the place. Taskmaster, he's a really great character. So there are some pieces of that on display in this movie, despite the fact that it's less of like a DEI in it. But even it's funny, like the lady, they got Elaine from Seinfeld. She's playing the political lady, Victoria Hand, I think her name is. And even that kind of is like a sign of the times, the DEI initiative, the strong woman who's been put in charge of the thing. I hate to say this, but so often it seems for appearances. And there are plenty of fucking capable women. I'm not the least sexist. I don't feel like a man in the first place to be a sexist person. I'm non-binary. I love women. I think so many women are so fucking together. My girl in particular, she's a great manager. She could fucking be the head of any freaking spy organization on planet Earth. Her dad's a 37-year veteran of the police force. And, I know plenty of women who could do that job. However, it's the patterning. When you see powerful woman shows up here, powerful woman shows up here, all of a sudden, hey, we've had Nick Fury for a long time. Let's do Maria Hill. And, she's introduced by Brian Michael Bendis in a real sort of DEI, a effort to do diversity, equity, inclusion. Victoria Hand is a similar sort of character. So there are some weird little vestigial fingerprints there. And Ironheart is very much that sort of character as well. And this series was made at that time where they were most confident in this approach. And as we've seen over the years, it's been a disaster for them because they have not been able to fucking execute any of these things organically and with the real heart and soul and reverence to the source material that would make this stuff work. Like case in point, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, that first movie would have worked great if they actually based it on the death of Captain Marvel, the male Captain Marvel. If he could have died, even in the beginning of that movie, he could have died in any number of ways. They could have done a loving adaptation of his death and introduce her similarly to how she was introduced in the comics and leave it with her as the new Captain Marvel by the end of it. The audience would have loved that. We would have went apeshit for that shit. But of course, they didn't do that. And they had Annette Bening, an old crusty white woman, playing the Supreme Intelligence. The Supreme Intelligence of the Kree is one of the coolest visuals ever created in comics. It's this giant, like kind of fat-headed green blob with these tentacles coming off its head. It's in like this giant jar, and it's this Supreme Intelligence. It's really neat. They should have fucking brought that to life. But no, we got crusty old Annette Bening as the fucking Supreme. I don't even get that choice. I don't get a lot of their fucking choices in the Kevin Feige era of Marvel. It's just ridiculous. So let's see. So the series overview. Ironheart follows Riri Williams as she returns to Chicago post-Wakanda Forever, navigating challenges that pit her technological prowess against magical threats, notably facing off against Parker Robbins, a.k.a. The Hood. Well, that is interesting that she's going to face off against Parker Robinson's The Hood, because I actually really like Parker Robinson's. That was Ryan K. Vaughn, I think, introduced The Parker Robinson, the Hood character, was drawn by Kyle Holt. I love that miniseries. It was a Marvel Knights miniseries. It was very cool. He was an interesting character, but he was one of these characters like the Sentry that was popular, so Brian Michael Bendis decided to use him in his own Avengers run. But when he used the Sentry and when he used the Hood, he essentially threw out the script that Paul Jenkins had created for the Sentry and the script that Brian K. Vaughan had created for the Hood. And he just kind of did whatever he wanted to do with those characters, just in the knowing that, well, people like these characters and are interested in these characters, so I'm going to use them, but I'm going to use them in whatever way I choose. That was very frustrating to me as a fan. That was the beginning of me starting to not appreciate Brian Michael Bendis as a writer. There was a very simple, it's a very stupid thing that he did. And I don't know, it was shocking. I was shocked, but one of the last things by him that I ever read was the Siege miniseries, which was the most unsatisfying conclusion to what was one of the greatest long-form story arcs ever done at Marvel, and it was the Dark Avengers. It was the Avengers having to go fucking underground, basically becoming criminalized, and the replacements for them being villains wearing their costumes. That was awesome. Having the villains in their costumes, not having somebody who had to compete with being a good guy version of the hero like Sam Wilson does, but one who was meant to be there as a great evil disguised as something good. It was so fun. But in the end, in the Siege comic, all of the fights that you were waiting to see happen, good guy Spider-Man versus evil Spider-Man, Venom, good guy this versus bad guy this, in the case of like Thor was replaced by Ares on the team, and Ares was the god of war. And you never got these battles. None of these battles happened. It was the most unsatisfying. It was a 4-issue miniseries, and it was just terrible. It was just nothing what you wanted. You had Daken, Wolverine's son, on the Dark Avengers, and you wanted to see Wolverine fight his son. You wanted to see the good guy version fight the bad guy version. And Brian Michael Bendis, I think, very specifically went, well, that would be stupid. That's what everybody's expecting. Give us what we are expecting if it would be great. Don't be stupid. You're not so clever as to make not what we are expecting work for an audience who was expecting things lovingly. This is what Rian Johnson learned when he made The Last Jedi. He fucking pulled everything that we had been told and promised in the first Force Awakens movie, and he went, nah, we're going to go this way instead. Nah, we're going to go this way instead. And the audience just went, what the fuck was this? That wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to see Thor versus Ares and Wolverine versus Wolverine and Spider-Man versus Spider-Man. And all of these thematic evil versus good versions of each other. I wanted to see them all fucking get revenge for having been Bullseye versus Hawkeye. Oh, fuck yeah, man. Like, that would have been fucking rad. Bullseye as Hawkeye was awesome. I was like, ooh, he's like better than Hawkeye. And like, to fucking have Hawkeye have to go up, that would have been great. And it never happens in this Siege comic. Terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And Brian, in his infinite wisdom, one of his great friends, Michael Avon Oeming, who is the artist on Powers, he's also a really great writer in his own right. And Marvel was giving him opportunities to write some things at the time, like some little things. And one of the things that he wrote that was fucking amazing was an Ares miniseries. It was a 6-issue miniseries. And I barely remember it now because it was a long time ago. But I remember that essentially he introduced his son, and his son was another god who had been like reincarnated, and he was like raising this young boy who was the reincarnation of, I don't know if it was Hades or something, and he was like trying to guide his son. And their dynamic and the way the comic was executed, it made Ares a compelling and layered and interesting character, despite the fact that he was a little heartless and a bit of a dunderhead and a brute. But I loved him. I loved that series. And on fucking issue 3, a few pages into the damn book, the Sentry literally rips Ares in half. Rips him in half. I turned that page and I audibly gasped in the train that I was on. I was like, ah! And it was a shocking moment, but he destroyed Ares. Just literally straight up killed him, destroyed the potential that character now had because of the work that Michael Avon Oeming had done. If I was Michael Avon Oeming, I would have been devastated. And Brian did some similar things with Parker Robinson and with the Sentry. And I suspect that the Parker Robinson, the Hood, that you're going to see in this series is probably more likely based on the Hood that Brian Michael Bendis brought us and not the really great Hood that Brian K. Vaughan brought us. Perhaps somebody was smart enough to read that, and and some love will be given to that character, some honor will be given to his roots. But the Hood is a great character that I suspect is probably going to be mangled here. And the only reason why I might actually watch the Ironheart show would be to see how they handle Parker Robinson, aka the Hood. So, I mean, this series does not have much going for it. The production team I wrote. In case you care, the series has been created by Chinaka Hodge, which this is another one of those weird sore thummy DEI things. We've got a black, super intelligent, super sassy and confident superhero who's as smart or smarter than Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. So the white man's being replaced with this young upstart black girl. And who do they bring in to create this series? Her name is Chinaka. If that doesn't sound fucking African to you, and you don't know that was a choice that they made, that they were like, yes, and we'll be able to put Chinaka's name on this thing. I'm telling you guys, everybody is hired for optics on one level or another, unless you're really good friends and people get hired because, my friend, I'm trying to get these things in. That's what I was trying to be when I was coming up in comics. But often I was hired for optics. I was hired to create a series for DC called Dead Romeo. And they thought of me and hired me because I was Dee Snider's son and I was a handsome rocker who was going out on stage and performing on TV shows, and people had seen me and I was a good looking guy, and they thought, if we can have Jesse create a romantic vampire comic, that could catch on. People love that motherfucker. He's adorable. And all these women who love these Twilight books, they might love whatever he creates. I tried to save them from themselves when they assigned me this because I knew that the audience, a DC audience, was going to hate this vampire romance. And I really tried to create something that was rooted in the DC universe that the audience might love. But of course, throughout 3 major revisions that they gave me to my outline, which they really genuinely loved, but they just kept asking me, all right, can you remove all of these characters who are existing characters from the DC universe that you have in the first draft of the script? Get them all out of there. And I'm like, but that was the hook to get fans of the DC universe to actually read this book. But first, they made me get rid of that. And, and then they made me get rid of this whole Dante's Inferno concept that I had and that they really liked. They told me that they were going to have me do the Dante's Inferno concept with Lobo somewhere down the line. And I love Lobo. I wanted to work on Lobo, so I agreed very happily. I was like, oh, okay. But they made me essentially write this Dead Romeo series in a way that I really didn't want to write it, where it was just a bunch of fucking vampires going around. Just there was nothing that I was fucking interested in. I didn't get into comics so I could write a bunch of fucking vampires and vampire romances. If I wanted to do vampire shit, I'd either be a novelist or I'd go make movies or something in the horror genre, not make comics, not be trying to work for Marvel or DC. So, this wasn't something that I was interested in, and I knew the audience wouldn't be interested in it either. And when things like that, and even them casting me, Dead Romeo, a vampire romance written by Jesse Blaze Snyder. You don't think that the audience who's like, oh, that's Dee Snider's son, who's kind of handsome, and I know what you're doing there. You picked this guy because of this. That tells the audience that they didn't choose me because of my writing ability. They choose me for a bunch of superficial reasons, and to some degree that was true. Granted, I had proved my writing ability with sample scripts and having worked at Marvel and done other things. So there was some ways for people who were aware of things that I had already done, things that I already released, to know that, oh yeah, Jesse's a good writer or whatever. I can see why they would connect him to this because they think it's a good PR thing. But really, for other people who didn't know or anything, it undermined my credibility. And this, unfortunately, Chinaka, I'm not dissing her. I don't know anything about her. I don't know what she's made and nothing. But Chinaka, if you're listening to this undermines your credibility because it seems a little too obvious that this very black-sounding name has been put as the creator of this black-centered superhero piece that's replacing the white male lead, right? Down with the patriarchy. And it's Ryan Coogler who was serving as an executive producer. And Ryan Coogler, of course, is a black director. He's very talented. They love to connect his name to lots of things because he's done good work. He helped relaunch the Rocky franchise with Creed, and the Black Panther movies are excellent, or at least the first one is. Sorry. The second one's made well. It's just, story-wise and the ultimate choices that they made just were not very good. So that's it. That is the freaking thing of Ironheart. This thing, I promise you, whether it's good or not, good, bad, or ugly, it's going to fail miserably on Disney+. Nobody's going to watch it. The rumors of it have been out there for years about how bad it was, about that it was bad enough and that the audience would react badly enough to it that they chose to hold off on its release a long time. It's been done. It was done on time, and it's a year and a half later that it's actually going to finally see release. And it is going to be a major dud on Disney+. Moving into talking about Thunderbolts and its box office performance and the reception behind it. So now, Thunderbolts debuted with $76 million domestically, okay, and $86.1 million internationally, totaling $162 million globally. Now, this is interesting in and of itself because they used to release these movies separately. And what I mean by that is they would release it in America, and then a few weeks later, they would start the international release. It would come out in America, and they'd be like, it made such and such amount of money in America. And then they would announce later, and now we also made this much money in this country and this much money in this country. But now, because the numbers are down so much, they're making these announcements in tandem. They're releasing them in tandem so they can announce how much it made internationally and in America just as one number. But they don't tell you that. They just say, most of the time, if it's an article, they'll say for a total accumulation of whatever, if it's breaking it down. But at just a quick glance on a movie trailer, movie commercial, whatever, they go, $162 million in its first weekend. How many international territories was it released in? Because that really colors the way people are thinking about these movies in terms of their success in America. A 75 or 76 million domestic debut is not awesome. And I have some comparative performance numbers for you. So, but first, let's say, as of May 13th, 2025, the film has grossed $134.4 million now, so not even double, in the U.S. and Canada. And it's made $143.6 in other territories for a worldwide total of $278. So again, this sounds good at a glance, but there's a lot of things to take into account. Comparative performance is one of them, okay? So while Thunderbolts has outperformed some recent MCU entries, its per-theater average and overall earnings place it among the lower-grossing Marvel films, indicating a very lukewarm audience turnout. The critical and audience reception, 88% critic score, 94% audience score. Metacritic score of 68 out of 100, indicating generally favorable reviews, and it's got an average grade of A-. Now, people have liked it, but its bump in the box office in second week and whatnot, it has not held in any particularly meaningful ways. It wasn't so successful with the audience that the audience grew or the bump was negligible. It was a pretty standard next week drop. There were some people who noted that the Monday after they announced that, it's the new Avengers, that got it a little bump on Monday. But that bump went away immediately. And when you take into account inflation, this thing is around Shang-Chi and Eternals numbers. Shang-Chi and Eternals. Shang-Chi almost nobody knows. Eternals, literally nobody knows. And this is during the COVID and like all these different things that were working against those movies at the time. And literally, I don't necessarily think those things were working against the movie at the time. I think that if they'd made better choices in how they executed these things, they would have been much more successful films. But Marvel wanted to make these excuses so they can make them all they want, because now it makes Thunderbolts look bad because it's right there with those movies, right in the same vicinity. And because of inflation, the ticket prices, you'd be so surprised. Just in like 6 years, the difference in ticket prices is insane. So even with these numbers being like close, you got to be like, yeah, but a lot less people saw it. The deals that they have with the theaters aren't as good. There's so many different factors here, and how much they're spending on these movies in general with their research. I mean, with their reshoots, because it's just such a slapdash production on these Marvel films, and they will basically fuck things up and then they go back in. Don't worry, we'll fix it all in reshoots. And granted, there have been times where they've been able to fix things in reshoots, but that strategy has not paid off since they abandoned the Marvel Brain Trust, who was a group of editors and creative people like Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Millar, but people who were very familiar with these characters and these stories because they wrote a lot of these classic stories, who were basically looking over the shoulders of these filmmakers and helping to steer these things into a place that the audience could still get behind. And often there was major reshoots and major things that had to be fixed, but they were always being fixed from a place of, the audience is going to like this, you got to do this like this. And now it's more like panic and so many other things. I mean, freaking the Captain America 4 movie was reshot at least once, seemingly more than that. And it's always hard to kind of prove these things. It's like lots of rumors of Anthony Mackie yelling on set going, what the hell? Can we please have a script? Can we please have a script? We're just going to have to reshoot this shit again. And vestigial tales of storylines and things, rumors of the Red Hulk essentially being Donald Trump in earlier versions of the screenplay, them realizing by the time Trump won the election that maybe we shouldn't make our whole movie about lampooning Trump when so many of the American population actually voted for him. Problems. So the way they've been thinking, the way they've been going about stuff, the culture at Marvel has been all wrong, and how much money they've been spending on these movies to fix them last minute has been insane. So how successful is Thunderbolts? I don't know, man. It really remains to be seen. And like, what kind of legs will it have? What kind of memory do people have of this? People don't really know the Thunderbolts. And what are the Thunderbolts made? It's Red Guardian, a new Black Widow. I mean, Florence Pugh's great. David Harbour's great. The Sentry, nobody knows the Sentry. I love the Sentry. He's one of my favorite characters. But even him in the movie and like all the story, even though it's handled well, these things were never meant to go together. They did manage to put them together in an interesting way and tell an interesting story and a compelling film. I like it. And already they're taking this guy, based on the success of this movie, the creator who either directed or wrote it, and they're like making a big announcement about, he's going to make the X-Men movie, or like, we're going to announce something big with him. But it really seems a little bit more to me like this is the best of the worst. The audience didn't love it. The audience was surprised that they didn't hate it. And the people who were still up for this kind of thing, like me, went, that was a pleasant surprise. And, that was a pleasant surprise, I don't think is enough to change the tide of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially when Riri Williams and Ironheart is coming to Disney Plus next. And Fantastic Four is on the way, and there's a lot of trepidation about that. And we don't necessarily have to sit here and talk about Fantastic Four right now. Everybody knows the problems there, that people have from Thing's voice and the fact that it's in like this weird little pocket universe thing where it's always the 1960s. So essentially, the Fantastic Four, the first family of the Marvel Universe, is never going to truly be the first family of the Marvel Universe because they don't exist in the Marvel Universe. Granted, this recapitulation that we'll see in Avengers Doomsday and whatever, it may indeed end with a Crisis on Infinite Earth sort of scenario where all of a sudden everything is reframed back into one universe and the Fantastic Four can be the centerpiece of that universe. But the way they're doing this movie right now, using a female Silver Surfer for I don't understand what purpose. Like, she is not a character of significance. They're like, oh, Earth X. Earth X is a fucking future. I've loved Earth X, but Earth X is in the far future, and it exists along various incarnations of the characters that are much older and much different. It's a whole different time and place in the Marvel Universe. And there are female heralds of Galactus. One in particular, who's a love interest to Human Torch, Bobby Ray. She should have been the fucking herald of Galactus. She's known as Nova. But she's on fire and she's gold metallic. And like that could have been just as cool. I don't understand why they needed to do this. It just seems like an arbitrary change for the sake of diversity, equity, inclusion. Oh, well, she's been a guy before. And to do it to Silver Surfer, who is silver and an alien, not a white man, and a character that has sustained his own stories throughout the Marvel comic book universe, hundreds of issues. He's a main character in many teams like the Defenders and books like the Infinity Watch and things like that. A character that plays very major roles in Annihilation and some of the biggest story arcs of the cosmic side of Marvel. And he's a character that is, created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, and was like, a love that Stan Lee had for this character. He's been adapted into animated series and his own shows and his own books. There's so much with this guy. To fundamentally change him to this nothing female version, it's just so stupid. It's just so tone deaf. It's such a waste of everybody's fucking time and energy to even be upset about it. And on some level, you're like, oh, great, we'll get some press out of people being upset about it. And they'll still like the movie because everything else will be good. Like, why aggravate us just for the sake of fucking aggravate us? Why not get press out of the fact that you've done such a great job lovingly adapting the thing that we love, that we're like, yeah, you guys are awesome. We're going to share this. We're going to give you love. Do that. Do that instead. All right. So talking about Avengers Doomsday and production concerns, there are now reports coming out, and Doomcock is talking about this on his YouTube channel. I think there's some other people who have been leaking some of these pieces of information as well. These are rumors. This is rumor territory. But dudes, don't fucking discount rumors. You know who discounts rumors? Industry people who don't want to see their industry fail. The same way Democrats who don't want to see the Democratic Party fail cover up for people like Hillary Clinton. And you know what that does? It erodes the power of your party. Until the DNC dumps Hillary and goes, we're done with corrupt politicians and business as usual, we are going to make a better world with honest truth tellers. The DNC is fucked. The Democratic Party is fucked. It's the covering for people like Nancy Pelosi and all these others that is what is having the whole audience turn against them. And it is this covering up all of their mistakes and just continuing to do business as usual that is ruining everything. And when rumors come out and the rumors are not flattering to your studio or your thing, the only way for us to stop that from happening in the future, and I mean you too, industry person, you want your industry to survive? Fucking call them on their bullshit. Spread it out. Spread the message. People are calling us on our bullshit. Maybe we should stop doing things like this. Or perhaps tomorrow we won't have a job. Perhaps tomorrow we're not going to make billions of dollars anymore because we've so royally screwed up the way we're producing this shit. So don't obfuscate the truth. Don't cover it up. Don't be part of, one of their allies trying to make sure that even when we do shit wrong, that we still come out looking like roses, because you don't. To people like me and anybody else who's truly paying attention, we know what's going on. We see. You guys are fucking liars. You're covering for each other. You're covering up all this shit. The vast majority of leaks that tend to come out. And I mean, I know you may be, oh man, Jesse, you haven't seen, there's so many leaks. I'm not talking about fucking random shit that's said on the internet. I'm talking about consistent leakers who have become trusted leakers. Yes, anybody can say anything on the internet, but somebody who has said something 6 times and those 6 things have largely been seen to be true, or maybe some of them we couldn't prove that they were true, but there's 4 things that we could prove were true, and then there's 2 other things that they said that we couldn't prove were true. Those things are probably true, if you can't disprove them as being true. And people like Doomcock and other people, there's a lot of people on like Twitter and Reddits and whatnot, but people who have consistently been leaking information, from the same account with the same, handle. That information, it very largely appears to be true. At the same time, there does also seem to be a part of the apparatus that tries to leak false information for press in some cases, like Kathy Kennedy in the Star Wars camp. She's constantly leaking information falsely or just to get some fucking, I think it was her plan of leaking that she was leaving Star Wars just to get some eyes on the fact that Andor was coming out. And I think that she had a whole plan. This will give me an excuse to go do an article where I say, I'm never leaving and I'm a brilliant producer and I'll be able to control all the PR surrounding this. So I'll look like roses and I'll get PR for my show Andor season 2 and then free PR, free press, right? So there's a lot of ways that this shit works. But when it comes to real leakers leaking real things, for the most part, majority of the stuff that they put out tends to be true, or at least have a decent amount of truth to it. So what's being said is that the current production is without a finalized script and that they've been relying on a collection of notes. The director is working out of a notebook. And this raises some concerns, specifically about the narrative coherence and what this overall film quality is going to be. Another leak has suggested that essentially the main cast members, and there's at least 20 of them that they announced the other day. They did this really stupid long thing where here's a chair with somebody's name on it and another chair with somebody's name on it, and they're showing that there's an Avengers team. Like if you saw Thunderbolts, kind of that thing ends with them suggesting that there's another Anthony Mackie, Captain America-led Avengers, and they're the new Avengers. And then there's also going to be the characters from the other universes like the X-Men. And then there's also going to be the Fantastic Four. And that all of these different universes of characters are going to be crashing together. And apparently, none of these actors are getting paid less than $20 million. And I can believe that because you're not putting Beast in your X-Men movie for what they are doing right now. For the lesson that they learned from Wolverine and Deadpool is we need to cross over these classic versions of the Marvel characters on film with the characters that we've established. People want to see Iron Man and Captain America and the Hulk and all these people see the Thing and see the X-Men, but not just the X-Men. They want Kelsey Grammer's Beast, and they want Alan Cummings' Nightcrawler, and they want Frank Jansen's Phoenix, and they want Marsden? Cyclops. They want the people that they recognize as these characters from the previous movies that they've seen. Well, that puts the agents and the actors in the negotiating position of their fucking dreams. And I could see a situation where all of these freaking negotiators and actors essentially came together and they said, well, let's make a deal. And everybody, we all got to get at least, we got to get about the same amount of money. You can't do this without us. You can't have the real X-Men. You want all the real X-Men? Well, pony up the dough. And 20 million? Yeah. I think that they're at the stage of the game with inflation, whatever else, where 20 million actually isn't as much as it used to be. And they are trying to throw money at this problem to create a $1 billion tentpole. Now, will they succeed at creating a $1 billion tentpole? I think so, actually. I think that this is a very superficial plan, and I think that its story cohesion will be awful. But will it have moments of member berries and excitement because it's going to cross over this with that and that with the other? Maybe put these X-Men in some real comic accurate costumes and things like that. Yeah, I could see the audience responding to that. I could see them going, oh, wow, like this is what I've been dreaming of. This is what I've been waiting for. And even if the entirety of the sort of core concepts of the film are absolutely terrible, if a movie like that was filmed with enough moments that the core audience like me want to see, we're going to see it. We'll get up for that. We'll go see it. Is it going to lead to the rebuilding of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Is it going to lead to renewed interest in everything that Marvel does? I don't actually think so. I think it may hurt it in the long run. And unless it really makes great strategic choices and demonstrates to the audience through trailers and through the various announcements of who's working on these things and who wrote these things, that they have changed up the way they're doing things. They are lovingly embracing the source material, and they are going to give the audience the storylines and the costumes and the bad guys that we have been waiting for all our lives. Finally, it's here. I mean, really, at any time, that's all they have to do to basically win the audience back. At least when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because unlike Star Wars, where it's all sort of like tied in and linchpinned with like Darth Vader and whatnot, for the most part, they haven't really been able to break out of that. The Marvel Universe, it's filled with different types of stories that you can tell and different characters and different storylines that could be adapted. So, I mean, it's kind of like always there for them to do. They just got to do it. They just got to go, no. We've decided on love. We've decided on source material. We've decided on honoring the people who built this fucking thing. Disney paid billions of this for a reason, and it's because there is a built-in audience, and we are going to start honoring them again as we did at the beginning of this venture, and we're going to go back to the thing that made us a success in the first place. It's there. They can do it. To a certain degree, the Marvel Universe will never die. It will just remain dormant until they begin to do that. And maybe these weird little crossover cash grabs like this will give them a momentary flare-up, but it really remains to be seen. And it's going to be very interesting to see, how successful something like Fantastic Four is. The audience has really been waiting for a long time for that. But the audience has dwindled because the audience had grown by all of the people who were the main audience telling everybody how great everything was, and people going out, getting good word of mouth and it building. So there was like a hardcore audience like me who reads comics, and then there was this other audience that doesn't, but is interested in those things, maybe likes the animated series or whatever else, and they were waiting to hear from their friends. And when their friends said it was good, and it became this bigger audience that was ready and willing to check out all this stuff. But now that audience isn't exactly there, and the mainstream audience is basically dead to the Marvel Universe. All the hype, it's not Starbucks anymore. It's not cool anymore. It's not the fucking pretty girl at the dance now. Those people, they just want to hang out with the pretty girl. They don't want to hang out with the one that's like struggling and stuff. That's what nerds do. We go and we'll watch it. We give it a chance. I liked it. I like that kind of thing. So I'll go watch it. Right? But they lost the people who they're not particularly into that kind of thing, but they heard some really great stuff. So they're going to go come join us. Those people are gone. And will they be able to get them back with something like Fantastic Four? Obviously, they weren't able to get them back with something like Thunderbolts. But Thunderbolts is a much bigger, much smaller property than the Fantastic Four. If the Fantastic Four ends up in similar area, Thunderbolts is comparable to the recent Captain America movie, which is crazy. A Captain America movie shouldn't be like that. Fantastic Four doesn't have some of the things that was hampering the Captain America 4 film, like having to switch out your main character from Steve Rogers to Anthony Mackie's Falcon. But the Fantastic Four, they are still Reed Richards, still Sue Storm, still Johnny Storm, still Ben Grimm. So they are their characters. Will it be executed in a way that people like? I think on some levels it probably will. It seems like it's doing a bunch of things right. But how much of this audience that remains, the hardcore fan and the lesser hardcore fan, they're probably going to show up. And what does that put it? Around Thunderbolts numbers, around Captain America numbers, Captain America 4 numbers? If it isn't able to generate more buzz than that, I think Marvel will not be considering it a massive success. However, again, moving into this crossover time at Avengers Doomsday, the fact that the Fantastic Four will be seen with the X-Men, will be seen with the Avengers, and they will be cast in the as the actors who we are associated with them for the most part. That is a recipe that will probably put butts in seats, make money, but not necessarily do anything good narratively to help stabilize the terrible descent of the Marvel Universe right now. Just looking at my notes here. Rumors indicate each main cast member is commanding salary of at least $20 million. I mentioned that. It's with a reported 20 to 30 principal actors, which is a substantial investment, man. I mean, like, holy shit, how much they're paying on the actors alone. It's like, sorry, we didn't have any money for a script. Creative direction. I mean, whatever. Who gives a shit about the fucking creative direction? Well, I mean, this is another thing, but again, it's not going to necessarily matter if it's got all of these crossovers going on. But nobody wanted to see Robert Downey Jr. come back as Doctor Doom. This is such a stupid plan because Doctor Doom is a character that fans have been waiting to see him brought to life on the big screen as his namesake suggests, as this bad guy. Like in the comics, the evil of Doctor Doom is just so wonderfully maniacal in all sorts of wonderful ways. The character really has like a pathos and, his detest for Reed Richards and his jealousy of Reed Richards. Like he's such the quintessential bad guy villain that all other villains are based upon, from Mum-Ra and fucking Skeletor and like bad guys that you see to Inspector Gadget's, what's the bad guy Inspector Gadget? I'll get you, Gadget. They are all Doom archetypes. They're all Doctor Doom archetypes. My best buddy, Aaron Sparrow, he's got a book called Doomface, Kneel Before Doomface. And it's taking this Doctor Doom archetype, and he's basically pretending that Doctor Doom was away while like wokeness and like sort of like the sensitivity mob rose up. And now he's come back as the antithesis of sensitivity to like sort of be like, oh, fuck all of you people and your sensitive natures. Screw you. I don't care about things like that, which is great. And this inspiration comes from his love of the distillment of what Doctor Doom is. And Doctor Doom has never been brought to life on the big screen like that. The Doctor Doom in the other movies that they've done has been terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. So we want to see Doctor Doom. But Robert Downey Jr. is Doctor Doom? An evil Iron Man? We don't want evil Iron Man. We don't want them to bring back Steve Rogers as the Hydra Cap. Hydra Cap was awful. We hated that storyline when it came out in the comics because it was Steve Rogers who, in some timeline, agreed to be a Hydra agent. And that flies in the face of the purity that we like to think Steve Rogers is. Steve Rogers is pure North. He knows what it means to stand for truth and justice in the American way. He knows what that's supposed to mean to people. And he's somebody who has the courage of his conviction to leave his government behind and be nomad when his government's doing shit that he doesn't agree with. That's important. That's real character. So we don't want to see evil Chris Evans come back and evil Captain America, evil. That is not it. Fortunately, these evil versions are going to be met with a cameo parade, and I mean, it'll be a lot more than cameo, apparently, of this Avengers Doomsday, where these characters are able to come into this multiversal crossover, hopefully in a meaningful way. I don't know how fucking meaningful it's going to be, but at least we'll get to see some of these characters interact in ways that fans have hoped and prayed would happen one day, and now it is happening. Is it going to happen in the most cohesive and wonderfully told way, like Spider-Man, was it No Way Home, or Deadpool Wolverine? No, I do not believe that No Way Home or Deadpool Wolverine quality is going to be on display in any of these movies, which is unfortunate because it could be. It could be that. But it requires a script and a plan and not like a bunch of loose notes and shooting things multiple ways because you're not sure how the audience is going to like it. A good writer knows how the audience is going to like it. I know. And that's not to say that I'm always right. But as I write things and I make choices based on my internal knowing of how an audience is going to respond to things. And especially because I'm a writer who really cares about quality writing, and I've read books like Wired for Story, and I understand how writing is really received by an audience and what an audience is really looking for. So, I'm always just trying to get the audience to receive it the right way. And because I've studied how an audience receives a story, I will set it up so that they receive it the way I want it, not set it up 3 different fucking ways to see which way the audience likes it. I know which way the audience is going to like it if I've spent enough time studying writing, and I have. But most of the people who are working in Hollywood, everywhere, most of the people nowadays that are working, so many of the people who have been pushed out by the industry, lots of white straight males, which I'm not quite that, but still, lots of white straight males who've been pushed out who are great. They're geniuses. They get it. They've read the books. They've read Save the Cat. They read fucking 4 and 5 screenplays by William Goldman and On Writing by Stephen King, and and Wired for Story. If you're a writer and you're out there, you want to be a better writer, I promise you, one of the best books you will ever read on writing is called Wired for Story. Get that book into your hands, read it cover to cover, and take what it says as gospel. It is the truth. Most of the other books that you will read on writing are written at least from a small place of ego. Wired for Story is not. Wired for Story is basically a scientific analysis on what's really going on in the human brain when a story is told to it. And it is the most fundamental book on writing you will ever read. Highly recommend it. I kind of looking at my notes, and I've kind of covered everything that I wanted to talk about, really. In conclusion, I'll say that I love this stuff, man. I don't want it to fucking fail. I always try to spoil as much as I can of anything that I think I might not like, so that I can go and I can watch the movies and I can enjoy them. Like Eternals, case in point. I actually really liked Eternals. Granted, I had spoiled most of the things about Eternals before I went into the movie that I thought I wouldn't like. The visual of Eternals, there was a lot of simple, fundamental things about Eternals that did not honor the source material. And some of it was because, like, in the name of DEI, which I don't like, just arbitrary changes because of fucking DEI. I didn't like it when they took all the animes and they made everybody white. Of course, I'm not going to like it when they take all the white guys and they make them fucking diverse and, change their sexes up, because what the fuck is that? Honor the source material. We got a thing, people love it, we've adapted it into something. Take the thing that was there and lovingly turn that into something. That's what we want to see. But the way that they're going about this feels more and more every day like the Kathy Kennedy approach to her Star Wars trilogy, which, as much as anybody wants to defend the second one, we all know that third movie stunk on ice. And most of the people like me who were complaining about the second one, even though I was always admitting that there were some things about the second one that I did really like. There were some ideas that Rian Johnson introduced in the second one that I really liked. Like the inspiration of the rebels and the galaxy. There were certain things in there that were good. I really liked it. But J.J. Abrams didn't pick up any of those threads. And when I was watching that movie, the whole time I watched that movie, I went, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck, they are so fucked. Because I am a writer. And anybody who understands writing and story structure who was watching that second movie went, they have no plan. Oh shit, they've got no plan. They're never going to stick this landing. This is never going to be a satisfying trilogy the way fucking A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, and Empire Strikes Back is one of the greatest trilogies of all time. Never. It's not going to stand up to the fucking scrutiny of Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith and what's the other one? War of the Clones, Attack of the Clones. It's never going to stand up to even that trilogy, because that was at least easily conceived, structured, understood by George Lucas. Perhaps he was allowed to do too many of the things that he wanted to do his own way, and somebody should have told him no a couple thousand times maybe. But even compared to that, which is a lesser trilogy, anybody who could write watching The Last Jedi went, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. They are never going to stick this landing. You watched The Last Jedi preparing for how much you were going to hate the third movie, The Rise of Skywalker. And we were right. We were 100% right. And nobody who was fucking bitching at all of us who were complaining about the fundamental problems of The Last Jedi came back and apologized to any of us who were saying, this ruined the third movie. I'm warning you, the third movie will not be good because the way they handled this movie. We knew. We could see it. We could tell what was going to happen. And as a writer who has spent his entire life studying fucking English so that I could be fiercely good at storytelling and at communicating with an audience and helping them to have joy, dude, there's some terrible writing on the wall here. Terrible, terrible. And as much as there has been little rumblings of, Marvel's going to get itself back on track, and that fucking puff piece that they did on Kevin Feige that I recovered a couple weeks ago now, that Wall Street Journal piece where they were trying to obfuscate all the problems, all the things that he's been doing wrong. Nah, man. It's just some good PR that they're trying to get. I see no signs of any meaningful changes that are going to lead to the Marvel Cinematic Universe returning to the form that it once had. Anyway, this is Jesse Blaze Snyder. You've been listening to The Coolest Geek Alive. I do a show called Everything They Don't Want You to Know every Monday. It's on esoteric wisdom. It's fucking rad. I've been talking about really, really meaningful things the past bunch of weeks. I've just been really I don't know. I've been really satisfied with the conversations that we've been having, and it's awesome. Go check out Everything They Don't Want You to Know. Last week we talked about the war for your attention. The week before that we talked about the suffering industrial complex, how things like homelessness are never going to go away because they fucking monetized it. They've turned it into a business where people are profiting off of homeless people. People are profiting off of prisoners. People are profiting off of sick people. As long as people are profiting off of the problem, we will not be able to fix the problem because we are not incentivizing anyone to fix the problem. And most people are living in fucking poverty all the time. And so in order to get them to do anything, we need to provide them with money and protection and shelter so that they can live. Anyway, you can check out Everything They Don't Want You to Know. New episode every Monday. And, this Saturday, every Saturday, I usually do a review. I'm covering Misfits, really great British superhero show, adult superhero show that came out a while back. My buddy Digger Mesh has turned me on to it. I'd kind of seen a little bit of it years ago and liked it, but just never got back around to it. And, oh, man, the first season in particular is just one of the fucking funniest, most well-written shows I've ever seen. It slowly kind of falls off a little bit after that, and I'll talk about it on the week, and I'll give a slightly softer recommendation to some of the later seasons. But man, the first season's worth your time, and I'll be chatting about it on Saturday. Anyway, I love you guys so much. If you are on Kickstarter, we are going to be launching a book called Sugar and Bones in the next couple months, and it's a magazine that's going to be we're going to replace heavy metal. We're going to fucking torpedo that damn thing out of the sky because we deserve better creative material, better creative magazine than this corporate sludge that they call heavy metal now, being traded and bought by all these different companies because they want to own the brand so they can try to manipulate our minds. Nah. That's not what we're here to do. I'm really excited. I hope that you'll go to either Kickstarter or bldsts.com. That's blacklightdistrictstudios.com, where you can sign up for notifications. bldsts.com, and you can sign up for notifications to get in on the our new heavy metal magazine successor, Sugar and Bones magazine. I hope that you will. I'm really excited about that one. And, that's it. Last thing I guess I'll say, just because I've been doing a lot of work on this all week, I just have been updating my YouTube. My YouTube, I also have a new link tree that has tons of links, really good links on it for me, for my music, for my comics. If you've ever wanted to discover me more deeply as an artist, figure out who I am and what I'm up to, what I do, I made a link tree. You just go to the link tree and you go /Jesse Blaze, and it'll bring you to every fucking important link to my heart. It'll get you where you need to go, including to my YouTube, which I have been curating for the past week. I made a friggin' playlist of 38 music videos that are 39 music videos that are really close to my heart. just some of the best songs that I've ever written. And then I made another playlist of live performances, my 49 or 48 or no, 40, how many is it? Oh, 44. 44 of the best live performances that I've ever done in my career. I've been, performing now for 25 years or something like that on stage. And I was impressed. There's a lot of really cool performances, despite the fact that not everything's got the best sound, live performances. It's not always to have the best stuff, but there's fucking backflipping and screaming and stage diving and front flipping and knee sliding and just so much great energy that has in a lot of performances that have been captured on screen by a lot of people who love me and appreciate me, and I appreciate them for doing it. So thank you to all the people who have ever come down to a show and filmed me, and that I was able to kind of share all these things on my YouTube and share all these videos. And I also put together a big playlist of all the Coolest Geek Alive podcasts, all the Everything They Don't Want You to Know podcasts, as well as every podcast appearance that I've ever done in the past bunch of years, including a show that I used to do called Live Stream of Consciousness, which was a spiritual show, and some of the episodes of All Your Favorite Bands Suck, which of course is on hiatus right now because of Spotify, but you can still find all the episodes of All Your Favorite Bands Suck on iTunes and anywhere else where you get your podcast, just not on Spotify because they screwed us over. But that one will be coming back in the next few months as well. Anyway, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I can't do a show, have this be part of my career without you guys. I need listeners like you, and I appreciate every last one of you who come on here. Feel free to follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm all the things. Type in my name, and I will show up. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Please join me again this Saturday, and again this coming Wednesday for another fucking awesome episode of The Coolest Geek Alive. Love you.
You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snyder. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
It's my favorite part. Isn't that heavy? I'll play that. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Coolest alive. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Stay with your tribe. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be fucking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Spelling it out. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Making you shout. I'm a genius. I got lyrics coming out me bum for days. You like that? It's a kazoo solo. I played that too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living the shit. My voice is fucking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right or text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's starting soon. Straight to the fucking awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Ready, set, go. It's going to be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
You'll all see.